Hello, welcome to HBM's Crypto-Corner for Wednesday, May 8th, 2024. We have quite a few things to talk about, so let's get started. Came across this interesting story. Orangutan observed treating wound using medicinal plant in world first. Now, I know a lot of you are probably wondering, well, what does the orangutan have to do with cryptozoology? I'll get to that in a second. Male Sumatran orangutan treated a facial wound by chewing leaves from a climbing plant and repeatedly applying the juice to it. Scientists working in Indonesia have observed an orangutan intentionally treating a wound on their face with medicinal plants, the first time this behavior has been documented. Rakus, a male Sumatran orangutan, treated a wound on his face by chewing leaves from a climbing plant called Akar Kuning and repeatedly applying the juice to it, according to a paper published in the journal Scientific Reports on Thursday. Rakus then covered the wound with the chewed up leaves, which are used in traditional medicine to treat illnesses like dysentery, diabetes, and malaria, said scientists. Study lead author Isabel Larmer, a postdoctoral researcher at the Max Planck Institute of Animal Behavior, told CNN that the team were very excited by their observations, which took place in June 2022 in the Sawak Belimbing Research Area in Gunung Luzer National Park, Indonesia. Although other wild primate species are known to swallow, chew, or rub themselves with plants that have medicinal properties, scientists have never seen them used to treat recent wounds. Now that's the wound before, as you can see. Now again, you may be wondering, what does this have to do with cryptozoology? Well, is there a possibility that Sasquatch do the same thing, perhaps? Maybe they do the same thing to treat wounds? Maybe they know enough to do that? It's entirely possible. I don't rule it out, I can say that much. And here we go again. Another study in Journal of Zoology saying Sasquatch sightings are likely just bears. New scientific study sadly announced that Bigfoot is probably not real. Journal of Zoology reported that when black bear populations increased in an area, so the number of people reporting they saw a Sasquatch. These people are so desperate, I swear. They are so bloody desperate to make sure that Sasquatch is not real, that they don't exist, that they'll just throw anything out there. They just throw it out there. Oh, bears must be responsible for sightings of Sasquatch. Which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, take a look at these two photos. Here's Patty from the Patterson Gimlin film. Here's a standing bear. Now tell me, do those look alike to you? You have to be blind, half crazy, or stupid to think those two look alike. I mean, how ridiculous is this? Oh, but science has spoken. Science has spoken. A retired federal ecologist believes that Sasquatch do not exist. There's no such thing. As far as he's concerned, it's all a product of people's overwrought imagination. Okay, so a bunch of witnesses, apparently, are just deluding themselves, I guess. They are delusional enough to think that these large, hairy bipeds actually exist. Well, to me, that's an insult to our intelligence. That's an insult to the intelligence of all us witnesses. I feel personally insulted. I wish I could say it was surprising, but it's not surprising at all. Now, they do talk about John Mayenzinski, who actually had an experience with a Sasquatch back in the 70s. But this whole thing, are they just ever going to give this up? I suppose they're not. I don't suppose they are. And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ludicrous to think that Sasquatch can be related to bears, and that what people are seeing is actually bears and not Sasquatch. It ticks me off. It really does. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ludicrous. I know that the late John Bindernagel addressed this in his two books. He also addressed it in different lectures that he would give as well. And he was quite passionate about it. He had a field guide drawing of a standing bear and a field guide drawing of a Sasquatch. And he would often make the comparison between the two. And even a blind man can realize that they are nothing alike and they look nothing alike. Now, obviously, we don't have field guide drawings of Sasquatch in our field guides. The closest we have is in John Bindernagel's books. But these people just need to give this crap up. They really do. I'm pretty close to cussing at this point. I'm holding back. I'm holding back because I want to make this a family show. Make sure this is a family show. But it's absolutely, it's just BS is what it is. That's all it is, just BS. It is absolute, it's ludicrousness and it's BS. And I think nothing more needs to be said. Watch. Possible Ogopogo sighting produces series of peculiar waves. Well, that was interesting. Could it be Ogopogo making those waves? Canada's version of the Loch Ness Monster, known as Ogopogo, may have recently been spotted by an awestruck woman on the shore of the lake where the legendary creature is said to reside. According to a local media report, the potential sighting occurred last Friday morning in the city of Kelowna as Natasha Chalmers was walking in a beachfront park along the iconic Okanagan Lake. While taking a picture of a rainbow that had appeared in the sky, her attention was suddenly diverted to something far more wondrous. This thing popped up out of pretty calm water, she said, and then it started to move forward in that kind of arc that you see popping up. Although she initially suspected that the anomaly could have been a bird, she dismissed that assessment when it plunged back into the water and never reappeared. Following the sighting, Chalmers marveled. A series of fairly sizable waves seemingly started popping up at the spot in the lake where the creature had just submerged. Hmm. I mean, what could it be? Could it be Ogopogo? Makes one wonder, doesn't it? Things that make you go, hmm. Here's some positive Sasquatch news. Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society team investigating recent possible Bigfoot tracks in Blair County. Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society team investigating recent possible Bigfoot tracks in Blair County. Oh, I think I just read that. Sorry about that. Photo of one of the tracks found in Blair County used with permission of Eric Altman. As you can see, there's the toes, there's the sides, and the heel. What appears to be the heel. You can see the toes pretty clearly. This is from Stan Gordon, by the way, from Stan Gordon's website. I was informed on April 26, 2024 by Eric Altman, director of the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society, that several possible Bigfoot tracks were found that morning in Blair County. The footprints were found in a forested area south of Hollidaysburg by 4 men scouting the area for turkey for spring gobbler season. The men had walked approximately 200 yards from where they parked their cars as they looked for turkey tracks. One of the men was quite surprised when he came across a large five-toed human-like track on the edge of a muddy area. He called the other 3 men over to look at the track. A total of 4 tracks were located in that area. When the group returned home, one of the men contacted the PBS to report what they had found. Photos of the tracks were sent to Eric for his examination. 2 members of the PBS closest to that area were notified, and one investigator contacted the witness and conducted an additional phone interview. On Sunday, April 28th, a 3-member PBS team met the witness and 2 other people. The man took them into the forest to the track location. The location where the tracks were found was deep in the forest, about 2 miles from the closest home. It had rained Friday night into early Saturday morning, and when they arrived on scene, they found that one of the tracks had been washed out and could not be cast. 3 tracks were still intact and were photographed and casts were made. The tracks were all located in a muddy area. Here's a photograph of one of the footprint casts. This is a cast from one of the tracks, as you can see. Dr. Jeff Meldrum and Cliff Barrickman were contacted, and photos and video of the tracks were shared. The initial reaction from Cliff is that they are either a hoax or the real thing. Dr. Meldrum's initial impression is that he saw no red flags, that the tracks had potential, and he would examine them closer on a larger computer screen. Eric's initial opinion was that the witness they met with was honest and very credible and quite excited about his findings. He kept saying that he had been hunting for over 50 years and had never seen, heard, or had any experiences until April 26th. Eric saying that although he is not a footprint expert, he felt the tracks were not human, not bear, or other common animal and may in fact be Bigfoot prints. So a pretty exciting development coming out of the Keystone State. Now I dare some moron, know-it-all biologist to try and tell me this is a bear track. I'm sorry. The gloves are off. Some of these so-called scientists, they're not worth the paper that their so-called degrees are printed on. I mean, that article trying to claim that Bigfoot is just bears set me off. It did. It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. Now, Meldrum and Barrickman obviously seem cautiously impressed with these tracks, with these casts. I believe Eric actually took them to this past weekend's Ohio Bigfoot Conference and showed them to Cliff and Jeff Meldrum, who were both there at the OBC. I haven't heard what their thoughts are, what Cliff and Jeff's thoughts are yet, but I'm sure that they're cautiously optimistic about it, I'm sure. So, if I hear any more, I'll let you guys know. Nearly half a century later, Dover Demon mystery still puzzles enthusiasts.
This is GBH's All Things Considered. I'm Arun Roth. About 15 miles south of Boston, back in April of 1977, a very strange thing appeared at night, something that put the town of Dover on the map in the world of cryptozoology. That's the study of creatures that may not exist. Multiple drivers reported seeing an unidentifiable alien-like creature with glowing eyes over the course of 2 days. As word of these sightings spread, so did the legend of the Dover Demon. Here with me to discuss the Dover Demon is Jeff Belanger, a folklore expert and host of the New England Legends podcast. Jeff, good to have you with us.
Good to be back with you, Arun.
And there's no better person to talk about the Dover Demon than you, because you know the story so well. I first read about it in your book, Weird Massachusetts, and you talked to the first eyewitness, right?
I did. I got to interview Bill Bartlett about the experience, and he, to me, is the key to why this case is so compelling. So Bill is a fine arts painter, and I encourage you to Google him, look him up. His work is incredible. I mean, he's a painter, and it looks photographic. He's got quite a bit of skill. His work has been shown in galleries all over. He's won awards and so on, and this is highly relevant to the story because on April 21st, 1977, when he was driving down Farm Street in Dover, he saw something perched on a rock. He said he was going about 40 miles an hour. He had friends in the car. It was spring break. They were looking for a party, looking for something to do, and this creature had glowing eyes, like the way an animal's eyes would reflect in your headlights. And he saw this thing. It's like nothing he'd ever seen, and it startled him. And he said something, and his friends didn't see it, and he literally turned around to go get another look, but it was gone. And the reason his fine arts painting life is so relevant is because he went home and he drew what he saw. And like many artists, he understands perspective and size and so on. He didn't have a camera back then, unfortunately, but he had his artistic eye and was able to draw this thing. And that might have been the end of the story, except a few hours later, a kid named John Baxter, who was 15 years old at the time, was leaving his girlfriend's house around midnight, about 1 mile away on Miller Hill Road, and he saw a creature. At first, he thought it was a neighborhood kid sneaking around at night, but when he got a little closer, he saw this strange kind of bulbous head, these long spindly arms and fingers, and then it just scurried off into the woods. He went home and drew what he saw. And then the following night, a girl named Abby Bramman, 15, also was out driving with her boyfriend, and she saw a creature that just, at first they described it as something like a naked kid, but realized it was like nothing they'd seen before. So you're talking about really like a 26-hour period over the span of 2 days in April of 1977.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know what copyright. I don't know if I'm going to get a copyright strike from this or not. I hope not. But that's just basically the gist of the story about the Dover Demon. This thing had been seen over 2 days by different witnesses. Now, obviously, nobody's ever actually caught the thing, so we don't know what it is. But it's a fascinating mystery. It really is. I mean, nearly over 47 years later. And where did it come from? And where did it go? Those are questions that I'm sure, more than likely, those questions do need answers. That's for certain. Finally, mystery creature slays 17 farm animals in Mexico. A mystified rancher in Mexico says an unknown predator crept onto his property and somehow slayed a staggering 17 of his animals for no apparent reason. According to a local media report, the gruesome incident occurred last Friday on a farm near Nuevo Laredo. Venturing out to feed his goats and sheep, the unnamed rancher was stunned to discover a rather eerie scene as all 17 of his animals had been killed in a mysterious attack. While some of the unfortunate creatures were found near their feet as if they had been blindsided by the predator, others were grouped together in a manner suggesting that they were attempting to escape whatever it was that had wiped them all out. No bite marks, apparently? Wow. except for singular wounds on their necks. Raises suspicions that the chupacabra could have been behind it. It's a good question. What could have done this? We don't know. Nobody actually ever saw anything, so it remains a mystery, obviously. I guess there is one final item. Jerry Matthews of the Bookwas crew, he is looking for anybody who has a clip of video of him from the 2011 John Green tribute in Harrison Hot Springs, where he spoke after Thomas Steenberg and Adrian Erickson at the tribute dinner for John Green that Saturday. He's looking for anybody who may have a clip of him speaking. He says, or he claims, that Todd Prescott swears he saw it somewhere online once. But he's not sure if it's actually in existence or not. So, if there's anybody out there who can give a little bit of assistance to Jerry, he's on Facebook, Jerry Matthews, GerryMatthews. So if there's anybody out there who can help him out, I'm sure he'd be very appreciative. Oh, and as Columbo says, yes, there is just one more thing. I'm going to include the links to each of the speakers from this past weekend's Ohio Bigfoot Conference. Each of them has a different website or some sort of web page. Darby Orcutt, Matt Pruitt, Cliff Barrickman, Doug Hychick, and Dr. Jeff Meldrum. I have one page each for Darby Orcutt, Matt Pruitt, and Doug Hychick. But I have 2 pages each for Cliff Barrickman and Jeff Meldrum. Wait a minute. Darby Orcutt, Matt Pruitt, and Doug Hychick. Yeah, that's right. I want to make sure I got it right. Sometimes I get a bit confused, folks. You have to forgive me. And that's going to do it for this week. We want to thank you very much for tuning in. You guys are the heart of the show. I always say that, but I always mean it, and I'll continue to do it as long as you guys want me to. And for the 9th year in a row, going on almost 10 years, continuing to do this show for you guys. I'm going bi-weekly starting in 2 weeks. So there will not be a show next week, but there will be a show the week after. Same thing with HBM's UFO Corner as well. Only going to be a show every 2 weeks. So, until 2 weeks from now, y'all be good or be good at it. It's HBM's Crypto Corner.